Hello again, everyone. So this will be episode 9 of a week with Will. So it's been, I suppose, slightly more eventful than the previous week. There's sort of a few more things going on sort of throughout the week and the actual weekend itself. So I'll just sort of head on into it. So my working week throughout all of last week was working away in Bristol. So it's a stay away, sort of staying up in a travel lodge. So my several of the days within the week have been spent sort of just travelling. So the Monday was just sort of driving across from Suffolk to Bristol, which is about 3 to 4 hours, which is long and boring, and you sort of hope you've sort of got enough music or sort of podcasts. I never stick to one or the other. Like I think I can get very bored of the playlists very easily, even with sort of a broad music taste and broad music interest. And I think some podcasts, I can listen to like the odd one or two here and there, but if I'm just consistently listening to a person just talk for 3-4 hours, it will just send me to sleep, and it's probably not what you want when you're sort of driving past the M25. So because I must have set up about 9ish, had a walk over the site with my colleague, just sort of a recce as it were, which I suppose in at least sort of the surveying understanding of it is going over a large site in order to sort of plan out how you want to go about doing the work, sort of starting at one point, setting up where you want to sort of set up. Here's where I can get this information, here's where I can get this information, and sort of work out a nice sort of plan of attack, and then sort of go from there really. So then the next day you can just sort of get cracking, get going, smash it all out, which was the which was in the plan for the Tuesday. So sort of settle into a travel lodge. I think that's when the tiredness sort of hits you a bit more. I think during the actual travelling sort of time, there's it feels like it should sort of drag and hit you. And I think when you actually sit down and rest, that's when it gets you. That's when it sort of hits you a bit more there, and that's when I felt very fatigued, as it were. I still managed to go out to a sort of lovely sort of steakhouse for dinner, as I suppose one of the perks of sort of stayaways is going out for food all the other nights instead of relying on just my cooking, but which wouldn't say is adventurous to say the least. But no, so I went to the steakhouse. I believe it's called Pasture in Bristol, which was very nice. It felt very upper class, at least for me. Everyone was very nice. All the service was very good. The one thing that I found a bit peculiar was sort of the PVC. You could sort of see through into like the fridge behind my table, where you could sort of see all of the meat just sitting there. I don't know, like every place sort of has a little bit of a gimmick when I go when sort of decorating and sort of what they want to show. I guess they're sort of very proud of their meat, I suppose. It's an odd one for me, but at least I know it looks like it's kept at appropriate temperature, I suppose. So the Tuesday was very much sort of just get cracking, sort of get up nice and early, get on with the work. One of the sort of small perks of sort of staying away is, or depending on what you're staying away, is sort of the breakfast in the morning. So just full English, coffee, that sort of stuff. Usually it's something I crave and sort of enjoy. However, I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of this. Maybe it was the time that I arrived down for breakfast, that some of the food was sort of very cold, didn't feel sort of thoroughly cooked, didn't really taste that amazing. And I don't know how much people sort of take into their taste of full Englishes, but it's something that I love and I enjoy, and I was very disappointed. So that was sort of, okay, I'm not going to go back to that one again for breakfast. I will sort myself out. Thank you very much. So sort of get to work, get up to the site, get cracking, sort of primarily surviving off of three things throughout most of the days, which was a couple of big bags of pick and mix, cans of Monster Energy drink, and bottles of water, as it was very hot, very sweaty, and I did end up getting a bit of sunburn on that first day. But other than that, it was sort of a relatively stress-free day. You have small hiccups with kit when working on site, and I suppose as a surveyor, you naturally learn to try to be a problem solver. So nothing sort of too much to worry about. Nothing couldn't sort of handle. If sort of one thing's not working right, then you focus on another thing. Get back to that when everything's working okay. Just fair enough. So then had a nice, very chilled, sort of relaxing evening. Just went to local pub, burger and chips, a couple of pints. Just simple, easy. When you go to sort of some other places, and in particular sort of pub grub, you sort of think, all right, what am I going to sort of trust here? What's going to sort of taste all right? What's the thing that they're going to mess up the least potentially, I suppose? I think that's how I've looked at it from more of my pessimistic attitude. So yeah, burger and chips, just fine. Sort of maybe not spectacular, but solid, I suppose. So the next day, Wednesday, it was an early start. I avoided the travel lodge breakfast as I was not overly keen on that. Sort of making good sort of progress, sort of working forward on the site, as the site in itself was a very long stretch of road. My colleague was starting one side, I was starting the other, and we simply just worked closer together. And then as we sort of getting towards the end of play, we'll end up like tying things up. So no issues, no problems. Left myself with a small amount of work to do on the Thursday. However, I decided to take another friend's recommendation, went somewhere a bit more interesting in Bristol. I think it's SARS Bazaar. I believe I've sort of said that correctly, which is sort of an all-you-can-eat buffet. You're sort of paying around £20, and they've got all these different counters set up for the different foods of the world for you to try, whether you'd sort of prefer Chinese or curry or sort of kebabs or almost anything you can think of, really. So I mean, I just try to, in those situations, someone that's got a big stomach, I sort of strategize quite a bit and tried to have a nice sort of bit of everything. So there was 4 or 5 plates sort of full of all these different foods, because I didn't want to sort of limit myself to one. And every time you finished the plate and went up, it just gets cleaned away. The service was sort of incredible. Everyone there was sort of really nice, and a nice sort of full dessert as well. To which it was then sort of the slow trudge back to the hotel with a very full stomach. It's very enjoyable, but you've got the knock-on effect of having to deal with having eaten quite a large amount of food. Which eventually we managed to get back to. Go to sleep very easily, very quickly. I suppose that's one of the things about me, is if I've sort of got a nice full stomach, I'm gonna drift straight off to bed. No issues, no worries whatsoever. And then Thursday, didn't have as much work to do, so I started a little bit later. Just wrapped everything up, ensured everything was tied up with my colleague, that nothing was missing, as it were. Just sort of making sure we walk through, double check everything. If the site's quite far away like that, it's not exactly like you can travel back down the M25 and M4 just to sort of get a couple of manhole covers that you might have missed, or sort of anything in particular. So be absolutely thorough to ensure that everything you've got. If you've got the time, you should always be double checking that, regardless of sort of sites, to ensure sort of accuracy and make sure everything's not missing. And then there was sort of nothing sort of too fancy in the way of dinner. As the idea was just get cracking on Friday, just hit the road as early as possible, get back to work or back to the office, and sort of begin the sort of stages of processing the information through the Enforce sort of software, to which I'd like to think I'm slightly getting better at. It's every time you're doing it, every time you're learning a new bit of software, you sort of learn to start pick up new habits. One of which that at least I worked out, well, I was told about, is ordering any line work to be together to ensure that the lines all stay together, so you don't have to redraw, don't have to do these extra steps all over again. There's still bumps and gaps in my knowledge, however, a little bit more each time, a little bit more confidence growing each time going into it. So that wasn't sort of too bad. It was relatively stress-free. Just to then head off and enjoy the weekend. So the weekend in itself, in particular Saturday, was a very busy one. So had a friend's wedding to go to. My lack of prep could have been a real banana skin, as I did not check my suit from the previous time I went to a wedding. So I'm very thankful that managed to fit, because if it was a bit too long, a bit too short, if I'd gotten a lot fatter, there'd have been a lot more rushing around that Saturday morning. Thankfully there wasn't. Still ended up rushing around anyway, because I sort of seem to always end up leaving everything to the last minute. So this is including just making sure, sort of go through the ironing, make sure you polish your shoes. You got to do everything sort of right, from everything I can sort of remember when sort of had my parents telling me to sort this and this and this out for funerals or weddings or anything like that. So that wasn't too bad. And then managed to sort of head off to the wedding. And the actual venue itself was sort of where they lived. There was sort of obviously quite a lot of land there, so you can obviously utilise that. Marquees up, which I thought was sort of brilliant. I think sort of everyone that was sort of involved in the preparation for the actual day did an incredible job. I think everything was beautiful. It was amazing. I may not be the expert on weddings, but it was everything I thought was sort of very brilliant. I think everyone sort of handled. Hopefully there wasn't too much stress on anyone else's behalf, sort of before the event or during the event. But no, it was absolutely lovely. I thought sort of everyone's just really smart. I thought the bride and groom looked absolutely amazing. Had sort of several friends just sort of eyeballing our friend's suit. Sort of suit envy is now obviously a thing I've got to become aware of now. I've heard of men having beard envy. Suit envy's something slightly different, but yeah, I don't know if I quite have the money for that as an issue, I suppose. But now everything was absolutely beautiful. The ceremony in itself was sort of lovely. The couple themselves actually had got sort of properly married a few days before. So this was sort of, I think it was just sort of signing some of the papers and sort of last few little bits here and there. And then sort of over for sort of photos and sort of drinks and sort of small amount of food. There was like a waffle cart, which I thought was quite a nice touch. Sort of had like a waffle on a stick with sort of various toppings you can put on. Waffles, I'm as a kid, I'm certain I used to know waffles as more of a savoury thing, not a sweet thing. Sort of having like potato waffles. The other style of waffles I always used to think were quite American. Sort of over the last couple of years, I'm sort of more accepting of the fact that it is a dessert thing. It is quite a nice thing if you get the right combination. Which I think I had sort of caramel, fudge and honeycomb, all things sweet and sticky, which thankfully I did not get on the suit because that would have driven me absolutely insane. And then everyone sort of after photos and sort of a bit of mingling sort of moved over to the sort of the other marquee with sort of food and stuff sort of was starting to arrive, to which they had sort of a pizza van with sort of a few different options where you could pick. Hog roast, which is absolutely gorgeous. Yes, I tried a bit of everything. Obviously, why not? You're at a wedding. And then sort of went through some of the speeches from sort of different members of the various families, which I thought was sort of really lovely and really sort of heartwarming. Like, I'm often considered as someone that's not overly emotional and sometimes is considered a little bit robotic, but no, I thought all that was sort of really, really sweet and really lovely. And you sort of go through some of the other traditional things as well, sort of the sort of cutting of the cake, the first dance, which, I mean, if I didn't know them, I could make an educated guess that anyone around Suffolk, Ed Sheeran usually appears somewhere in the lineup, just because of his strong association with it all. And sort of obviously, yeah, had some food, had a nice bit of a dance. Obviously, I'm someone that's sort of driving, so it's, I mean, I had a glass of sort of champagne for toasting reasons, but beyond that, it was alcohol-free beer and sort of just sticking to that pretty much the whole night. It was just absolutely brilliant, and I think one of the sweetest sort of things, in a weird way, was having a chat with the bride, who must have been absolutely exhausted, and I think the bride and the groom were always naturally exhausted trying to meet and greet everyone, sort of friends and family from near and far. It's just sort of how oppressive. I can't wait for this to go. I just want to go play Minecraft, but I need to make sure that he's fine because he's going to help fight the monsters for me. It's just sort of the sweetest and loveliest sort of things I could sort of see from sort of the couple is sort of just playing Minecraft together. Maybe it's a generational thing, but it was just like that just sort of made me chuckle a bit, to be perfectly honest. Sort of that was really sort of just lovely, and just sort of shows sort of some of the interesting sort of sides of the relationship. Obviously, I don't know, but that's how sort of suited and sort of they are for each other, and it's just so enjoyable as a day, and that did bring a smile to my face. Sort of once the disco in itself had wrapped up, off home, so I dropped a few other people off who had been drinking. I was sort of more than happy to. Sort of a lot of friends, and not really an issue to it. Sort of 5-10 minutes out of my way is not going to bother me that much. And then so Sunday in itself was more of a chill, sort of relaxed day, getting my bearings before getting back into the office setup, ready for sort of work the next day. So I don't want to do too much. I managed to push myself and convince myself to go to the gym because I've only been a couple of times in a month. It's not getting into it enough. I need to sort of get built back into the schedule. It's something I am working on. I guess it's something with my head with the gym, as I think the gym can be so good for your headspace once you sort of start going, but if I'm in sort of a rut and my head's not right, it's that convincing, it's those first steps to get back into it, to start doing it again. And once you get into that routine again, it just comes easily, and nothing that's going to distract you, and it will be better for you in the long run. I know that. I'm just not quite there yet, I suppose. I don't know. I didn't sort of stress myself out too much more than that for the rest of the day. Sort of a bit of a breakfast and catch up with sort of a few friends afterwards, with what I'd consider a proper full English sort of nearby, which is sort of a bit of a habit sort of friends used to do on the sort of Sundays, which I'm trying to get back to doing, as it's sort of very enjoyable and just very chilled. And then back home, a little bit of washing, a little bit of tidying up, and then mostly just gaming, to be perfectly honest, the rest of the day. It's sort of a lazy Sunday. I mean, the lazy Sundays will sort of slightly transition away from that with the Football League sort of kicking back into action over this weekend, in particular Premier League sort of this coming weekend with Ipswich being in there. So that will be sort of curled up on sort of sofas watching Super Sunday, whatever 2 or 3 games are on, which will be really really enjoyable and sort of back into what I know, and sort of Sunday is the rest day, just chill, just relax. So my happy song I want to end on, it's a very well known song, to be perfectly honest, but I'm doing my best to try and find sort of unique and interesting ones for everyone else to be happy and sort of enjoy. I could have picked several different cover versions for this. However, I want to go for the original. So I've gone for December 1963 by Frankie Valli and Four Seasons. I know Punk Rock Factory did a cover version of it, which I probably listened to a lot more. But sort of very happy, very upbeat, and as the lyrics go, I what a night, because that wedding night was just amazing, sort of just lovely, and so happy to have been part of that. Don't think I've got any more weddings sort of coming up for a while, so might move away from those sorts of songs for the next couple of weeks. But thank you all very much for listening. Like, share, subscribe. I'll see you all later.